Welcome back to She's Got Game. On this week's episode, we are sitting down, just you and me, to discuss all things on how to handle the holidays. This time of year is crazy. I feel like we put so many expectations on what we want this time of year to be like. It's supposed to be full of love and fun and joy. Everyone's supposed to get on. We're supposed to be really looking after ourselves. We're supposed to actually be hibernating. If you look at what all the other, or the majority of other animals are doing at this time of year, they're hunkering down, guys. They are getting cozy. They are eating. They are chilling. They are resting. They are not putting this crazy pressure on themselves to suddenly dive into some New Year's goals, to have the best Christmas that they've ever had, to be sociable while sticking to their training goals, whilst eating really well, but not restricting, but not indulging, but not feeling guilt, but not getting pissed every single weekend and wanting to then still wake up and train and get after all of these goals, let alone if we even unpack the topic of relationships. I have definitely had a couple of breakups around Christmas and New Year, one actually on New Year's Day. So whilst we tend to look at this time of year as something that we just set that bar so high for ourselves with things we want to achieve, let's just break down the reality of it and unpack a few of the struggles. We're going to get into it together. We are going to get into the weeds. And I have asked you guys to write in some questions. So we're going to unpack those from what you all have sent in. And I think actually the ones that I've pulled out are really relatable to everyone. I know I felt all of these at some point throughout some holiday seasons in my life. So I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of you listening to at some point have experienced at least one of these struggles too. So let's get into it. Let's unpack some of these. Question number one. Every December, I end up drinking way more than I planned because every social event seems to revolve around alcohol. How do I actually stick to my limits without feeling boring or left out? This is major. I feel like this is one of the hardest things for so many people, particularly if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably got some interest in health and looking after yourself and movement or sport in whatever capacity you're interested in it. So this is probably quite a conflicting one for a lot of people because drinking alcohol for a lot of people is really fun and we want to do it. And we don't want to be seen as this Scrooge who is saying no, but actually saying no to alcohol is just setting boundaries. If you don't want to drink, you would like to think that the people around you would respect that, but I totally get it when they don't. It's difficult when perhaps you normally socialize with a certain group of people in an alcohol setting. So then when you suddenly start saying no, you probably will get a bit of peer pressure and you will get a bit of backlash. And that can be difficult to navigate. I've been there. I've seen other people be there. I've seen other people petrified of saying no and going into situations with every intention of saying no, but then when in the moment finding it really difficult to stick to that. So this is hard, but it's totally, totally doable. How I tend to do it, I think, one, it really helps with who you're surrounding yourself with, but you can't always control that with Christmas settings and holiday parties and New Year's Eve parties and all of these things where alcohol is present. We can't control who else is there. So if you say no and someone doesn't respect that boundary, that is saying a lot more about them than it is about you. And I think if you have really good people around you and you say no, they'll respect that, no questions asked. That can be quite rare. So when people do try and pressure you and they tell you you're boring, first of all, you're not. You just know what you want out the evening. You can still have a good time without alcohol. So stick to that. Remember why you didn't want to drink that evening and hold on to that and just explain it. If you can say to someone, I don't really want to drink tonight. I'm still here. I'm going to have a good time. There's nothing stopping me from still being as fun as normal. I might not be as silly and I might not make as many mistakes because I'm staying more sober than I am drunk. And that may be less entertaining for the people around you, but you're still a good time. And that's the most important thing, is that just knowing and having that confidence in yourself that you are great with or without alcohol. And you are not suddenly not fun just because you're not drinking. I think sometimes other people want you to drink as well because it makes them feel better about their decisions. And there's nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. That's not what I'm saying. But I think what I've tend to observe is when people say no to alcohol and other people around them are drinking a lot, they suddenly will then put a bit of shame on that person for not drinking. And I wonder if sometimes there's actually a little bit of, not a projection, that might be the wrong word, but it's making them feel a certain way about the fact that they are drinking and someone else is choosing not to. And some people will then feel judged about drinking, even though they're not being judged, but maybe that's their knee jerk reaction, that they will then try and pull you into drinking with them just because they're not liking those feelings that they're experiencing. Also, people may have seen you really fun when you're drunk before and they just want that side of you to come out. But I think if you can show people that you're just as fun without alcohol, as time goes on, people will ask less and less questions. So the more you say no and the more you actually stick to it and hold your ground, the less people will try and pull you into doing it. Once they've asked you and you've said no, that's it. They won't keep pulling you back in. What they will do is they will keep pulling you back in. If you say no, they push you and then you start drinking. So they will then, it's like with a kid, when a kid is like, right, I'm going to push my parent here. Mum said no, but I know if I then kick off and scream, mum will say yes. They're conditioned to know that every time they throw a tantrum, they'll get what they want. It's similar in this situation where if your friends and your peers and the people around you clock on to the fact that you say no, but they push you a little bit and you'll say yes, that is what they'll do every single time. So part of this is just really sticking to your guns, knowing that you're a good time, even though you're not having alcohol, and knowing why you're going into it and not wanting to drink. Do you want to wake up with a clear head tomorrow? Do you have plans tomorrow? Are you currently in a place where you know that if you have one, you end up having 10, 15, 20, and you just don't want to go down that road? If you know that's you at the moment, don't put yourself in the position where you can start to spiral and go down that path. Wake up in the morning with regrets. If that's not what you want to do, you have just got to stick to your guns and say no. And if you feel like you end up being in environments where there is a lot of peer pressure and people aren't respecting that, maybe it's time to stop hanging out with those people for a period of time and try and find other people or find other ways to get your fix, your social fix during this time of year. And I totally get that so much of it does revolve around alcohol, parties, drinking. But you know what? There is nothing wrong with being that person at home, in bed, early doors, getting up, going and doing what you want to do with your day the next day. You will eventually start finding other people who are also in a similar boat to you. So stick to your ground, say no. Next one. I want a healthier relationship with alcohol, but I also don't want to spend the whole season defending why I'm not drinking. How do I handle the pressure gracefully? I actually feel like I've just killed two birds with one stone. Classic me, getting ahead of myself. I feel like I've kind of answered that a little bit in the previous question, but I'll give you a bit of context and backstory with me. So when I had the eating disorder in my late teens, I cut alcohol out. I completely stopped drinking, but I did still go to the parties. I was designated driver, of course, because what other teenager is not drinking? But I just got really comfortable being at these parties, being in these spaces, still going to the events, still having a good time, but just without alcohol. And yes, I managed to kind of set that boundary and create that behavior quite young. But then I did start drinking again. And don't get me wrong, I had my fair share of early mornings walking through the door at home when the sun was basically coming up. We have all been there. But I quite quickly realized actually that's not the kind of life that I personally want to be living. And the people that I had been hanging out with in those environments, I definitely pulled away from a little bit. Or maybe we hung out in the day instead of at nighttime. There are different ways of doing it. But that time of saying no really set me up for success now, where I don't drink that much now. Don't get me wrong, I'll have the odd glass every now and then, but I'm very, very comfortable with going to a party where everyone else is drinking and I'm the only one not. I don't think twice about it. I have no issue with it. And actually, as far as I'm aware, no one else has an issue with it either, because they are now so conditioned to seeing me not drinking, but still showing up, still having a good time, still getting involved. And if I leave before everyone else, So what? It's not impacting their night. They can still continue for as long as they want to. They can still have a good time with and without me. And that's great. So I just think it's one of those things where if you explain your reasoning, people will hopefully listen. And if they don't, detach, go find another group at the party. But I really think if you just went into a situation and someone was like, hey, do you want to drink? Don't even make a big deal out of it. Just be like, no, I'm okay, thank you. That's it. You don't explain you're not drinking, you're doing dry Jan. You don't need to do any of that. You can just say, no, thank you. If they then ask questions, sure, go on to explain. But don't feel like you need to give an explanation for things just when you're asked if you need a drink. Just say no, gracefully move on. Also, top tip number 1, just have a glass of soda water. No one will know the difference. And if you want a bit of elderflower in there or some kind of soda, get it in there. And then people will also feel less inclined to ask you for a drink if you have something alcohol free that looks kind of alcohol. That is another tip. Okay. My family show love through food, and saying no is basically a crime in their eyes. How do I set boundaries around eating without hurting anyone's feelings? Okay, so this time of year, I feel like this is a big one for a lot of people. We hit December, the other 11 months of the year, we've been pretty good. And then it comes to December and it's like everything goes out the window. Don't worry, we'll reset in January. But we don't need to wait for that New Year's Day to come around to A, maintain what we've created, and B, start new things if we want to. When it comes to food, I think it's pretty similar to alcohol, like we were just talking about. I think if you explain your reasoning, hopefully people will listen to that. And I think it can be difficult. I really know this because people can put so much into their cooking around Christmas, and meals and food is a way to bring people together. And some people attach more than just food to preparing food. So they will think, this is such a special time. We've brought everyone together. I've put so much into making this. It's insulting that you're now not eating it. So I think really breaking down, if it's a close family member, hey, I've noticed when I say no to eating food that I just don't really want right now is upsetting you. Can we unpack that? Because I really don't want to insult you. I am so appreciative of everything you've done to bring us all together and the time that went into preparing that. But right now, it's just not something that I want to have. It's not quite in line with what I'm trying to achieve right now or what makes me feel really good. And I just want you to know that. I want you to know it's absolutely nothing to do with you or the food itself. It's just the current trajectory I'm on and the goals I'm trying to achieve. That doesn't quite fit in with that right now. And I just wanted to know how I can prevent that from being an insult to you. Having that conversation, I think when it comes down to all of this, unpacking what the actual issue is, and it isn't necessarily, I don't want to eat that mince pie because I've had 5 already today and I don't need another one. Or, maybe you just don't want to eat it. Maybe you're going, you're on quite a, I don't want to use the word strict, but you're on a health journey where you have brought in some guardrails and that is outside of those. And just because it's Christmas doesn't mean you need to derail. It doesn't mean you need to say yes to everything just to make other people happy. Remember the journey that you're on and explain that. And hopefully people will understand and respect that. How can I enjoy Christmas food without going into that all or nothing mindset where it's either super clean or complete chaos? Okay, I think there is at least probably 50% of people listening to this right now when it's come to Christmas and they've gone, I'm going to eat everything. I'm not just going to have one of the celebrations. I'm going to eat the entire box. I'm going to have the entire Toblerone. I'm going to have the entire pack of mince pies. It's like that whole thing of how much do you actually want goes out the window. You may only want one mince pie, but then you're like, fuck it, it's Christmas. I'm going to have all 6. This is something that I don't know what happens around Christmas, but New Year, all of this holiday season, we all do this. I know I've done this. I may not even want the thing in front of me, but it's there and we're not doing anything else. So sometimes I would just have it. And I think it's catching yourself and thinking, A, am I hungry? Do I actually want that? a lot of the time I am stuffed and I have still been reaching for that celebration tin. There have been years without a doubt where I have done that. And then I've just felt horrific. I've felt overfull. I have felt so sluggish. It hasn't made me feel good for one day of the year, guys. That is okay. You know, if that's what makes you happy in that moment and then it doesn't become a long-term habit, you do you. It is one day of the year. But if you know that doesn't make you feel great, I think maybe bringing in some things to think about, to clock onto. So almost every time you feel yourself reaching for something, it's like, okay, do I actually want that? Or am I bored? Do I need to go shake out my legs? Do I need to go for a little walk? Do we need to get the whole family playing a game or just doing something else rather than sitting around and the whole day revolving around food and eating? I think the important thing is to not be overly restrictive with what you're doing, but focus on your meals of the day. Christmas meal is actually a pretty good meal. You've got veg, you've got carbs, you've got protein, you've got fats. As long as you're not having like all of the Yorkshire puddings, if you're in the UK, we love a Yorkshire pudding, you can actually have a really good Christmas meal. And I know we're only referring to Christmas here rather than all of the other holidays that are coming up in this season, but talking about this day alone, focus on that meal predominantly. You can still have a good breakfast, guys. And if you're stuffed by dinner, you're stuffed by dinner, but at least you've then got two really good meals in the day. Those are your staples, get them in, and then the rest of the day just plug in around that. And I wouldn't be surprised if you have a good breakfast, you'll feel slightly less inclined to snack in between. You'll have a good lunch, same thing. Your appetite won't necessarily be there to continue to snack too much. If you have a little bit later on, so what, that's fine. But nail down those two really good meals at the beginning of the day and then your lunch, Christmas lunch or Christmas dinner, depending on what you have. And then if you want to have the odd bit of thing that you wouldn't normally have, that is okay for one day of the year. But I think having those two meals in will help prevent you from going into that chaos mode, as you said. And you're also then not restricting yourself because you're like, cool, I've got some good nutrients in today. I've got a good amount of protein, carbs, fats. Like I'm on track with what I would normally do with my meals. And if there's the odd extra bit of thing here, there, the other, that is totally fine. Slight tangent. She loves a tangent. I also really like getting up and doing some movement at the beginning of the day on whatever day the holiday is, where you're probably going to be sat down for the rest of the day. This is not me saying that to kind of counteract eating. I don't want people to get in that mindset of, I'm going to go and do a really hard run so that I can then eat X, Y, and Z. It's actually more the fact that if you're going to be sat down for the entire day, you're probably not going to feel great. So if you can get up and do a bit of movement first thing, that will already set you up quite well for the day. You'll feel better in yourself. You'll probably make some smarter decisions. And you started the day by doing something for yourself, which is probably relatively similar to your normal routine when you're training. And the rest is just kind of a trickle effect from there. It could be a walk, it could be a run, it could be a gym session if anything is open, it could be a body weight at home session, whatever you want to do. I personally prefer a bit of outdoor movement because I know we're going to be indoors all day. But whatever feels like the easiest win for you and the lowest hanging fruit, go do that in the morning. All right, next one. How do you say no to events you don't have the energy for and mean it when everyone expects you to be festive 24/7? I am the queen of saying no. I have no qualms with saying no, but I am also a recovering people pleaser. So I get this. And actually, even now, there's always that little bit of like, should I? And then I'm always like, no, you don't want to do that. You're not going to look forward to going to it. You're not going to be able to show up how you want to when you're there. And it's going to be a waste of not everyone's time, but it's not going to be the best experience for you or the people around you because you're not going to be able to show up in the way that you normally would. So when it comes to saying no to things, protect your energy. Just do it. The hardest no you will say is the first one. It will feel so alien. It will feel so out of your comfort zone. but you say no, and you'll be surprised, I think, by the way people respond. If I get invited to a big event or an event where I don't know where my energy is going to be at that time, this could be a month, 2 months, 3 months in advance. It could also be the next day, the next week. I will say something along the lines of, I would absolutely love to come, but just need to see where my energy is at. Is it okay if I let you know on the day? If it's a big event where it's not solely dependent on whether you are there or not, that should be okay as a response. If you're meeting up with someone one to one, obviously it's not as fair because they may want to make plans around that. But if it's a fixed date where that party date is not changing no matter what, and you explain to someone, I just need to see where my energy is at. There is a lot going on this season. I would love to be there to support you if I can, but if I can't, could we maybe get another date in the diary to catch up? Easy. And the amount of times people have come back and gone, oh my God, of course. Or actually, I've had a few times, I really respect you for saying that. Absolutely, of course, protect your energy. Thank you for letting me know. You'd be surprised. So I think set the boundaries and explain. The worst thing you can do is not reply. People will hate you for that. Actually, the worst thing you can do is lie and pretend you are going back to your parents or going and seeing family. Do not do that. People will find out and that will not sit well with them. So don't lie, don't ghost, be honest with where your energy is at and ask to check in with them and give them an alternative date to hang out if your energy ends up not being in the place for the event on the day. All right, another people pleaser one. Spot the theme. We are all in this together, guys. I'm a people pleaser, and the holidays expose every gap in my boundaries. How do I stop abandoning myself just to keep everyone else happy? Again, I feel like I'm covering a couple of these in the same. I need to stop doing this. Okay, so when it comes to people pleasing, it's really hard to go from being a people pleaser to setting boundaries. I think that is one of the hardest lessons I have had to learn throughout my life is saying no and setting boundaries and putting myself, my feelings, my energy before the person on the other end of the phone, particularly if they're not in my inner circle and my close circle. It's really difficult. We want to please people. We want to make other people happy, but it often leads to burnout. That's what I experienced a couple of times, is that I just said yes to too many things to please too many other people when I knew I didn't want to go and I didn't want to do that. And I burnt out, and I burnt out hard. And then I had energy for no one, not even myself, not the people I really did care about, because I'd given to so many people and so many other things that didn't really give back. And I knew I didn't really want to go to. I knew it. You know it in your gut. If someone asks you to do something, your gut will tell you yes or no. You will know almost immediately. 9 times out of 10, I would listen to that. But again, if you're not sure, just check in and ask if you can give an answer slightly later down the line, if that event is not dependent on you for going forwards. But when it comes to prioritizing yourself, if you're someone who already trains, you eat well, you go to bed on time, you get your 8 hours of sleep, just know that you're already very, very good at doing things that fill your cup. These things all elevate you and they're going to make you feel better about yourself, live a better lifestyle, be more energized, have more energy for other people and more energy for yourself. So you've got it in you to do it. So almost try and view it as if it's just another one of those tasks. I'm just trying to train myself to get 8 hours of sleep per night instead of 6. Cool, tick, we've done that. So this is another one of those situations. I'm now just trying to retrain myself to become that person that is okay with saying no to things when I feel like they're going to take too much of my energy. Almost try to detach from the people on the other end who may have a reaction to you saying no. Just go, what do I need right now? You don't need to respond straight away. You can totally take your time with what you want to say and have that check-in with yourself before you come back to anyone. People pleasing is hard, guys. I don't think you ever properly lose that. Like, there are still situations now where I will say yes to things, or actually my new thing is, can we pencil that in? Which is pretty similar to saying, can I check back in with you depending on where my energy is at? But if the date is free, but I know that I've probably got quite a lot going on before and after that, I'll be like, can we pencil it in and can I let you know? And I think it lands pretty well. I had a situation recently where we'd penciled, and actually it ended up that my friend couldn't make the date anyway. And that was great. And that was totally fine because these things happen. But it meant that we could come back, we could touch base, we could reassess. And it also then gives the other person the opportunity, because I think that's another thing. Sometimes we all put so many plans in around this time of year, but actually maybe neither of you want to do that. Maybe nobody wants to be there and we just want a break. And actually we're all dragging ourselves to do something we don't want to do. My client this morning was saying exactly the same thing, that she was supposed to be going out with some friends tomorrow night because it's that festive season. And actually one of them then turned around and said, they've had a really full on week with work, think they might burn out if they do that. And she was like, thank the Lord, because I don't think I had the energy for that either. So check in with each other. If you're hanging out with your close friends, you can have these honest conversations. All right, a little bit on training. So December is the 1 month where my workout routine completely falls apart. How do I realistically stay active without becoming a hermit or skipping every social plan? I would view December as just another month. So, for example, one of my clients at the moment is crazy busy in December. And we started off by going into it being like, right, we're going to train the normal amount of times we train per week. So that's 4 to 5. Okay. If we can achieve that, amazing. We've reassessed because, as it turns out, December is crazy busy for her. So we've gone, cool. Rather than shooting for 4 or 5 and knowing you're not going to get them done, then feeling bad about it, so not even doing one of the sessions. If you shoot too high, the reality is the overwhelm will be too much and you won't even get one done. Why don't we pivot and shoot for 3 or maybe even 2 and just make sure you get those 2 done, and then you have optional sessions around that. So the things you really want to hit in a week, rather than spreading them across 4 or 5 sessions and then feeling rubbish about getting none of them done, condense them into 2 or 3. If you get any extras done, amazing. The other thing that we've had a look at is maybe putting in some more at-home workouts just to get that daily or frequent movement in. Okay, cool. It's not the same as going to the gym because you haven't got as heavy weights that you could use. You're not getting quite the same stimulus as we would be if we were in the gym, but we can replicate it pretty well at home. We can still move. And I think this time of year, the most important thing about movement is that it helps our mental health. It can be a crazy time of year. We alluded to it at the beginning. It can actually be really hard to navigate this time of year because you feel like you should be feeling happy and joyful and in love and all these amazing things. You can end up feeling pretty shit about yourself and your life. And coming around to that new year, we all reflect, we all reassess. And more often than not, we'll look at the negatives of what we're not achieving and why we're not even why, but like we're not where we want to be, rather than the positives of look at everything I've achieved. So to almost prevent us from spiraling into that negative headspace, daily movement is great. And that may not be your 4 to 5 days in the gym per week now. It may be 3 at-home sessions, or it may be 2 days in the gym, and then the other days we're doing some at-home movement. It could be a yoga flow. It could be a body weight circuit. It could be an outdoor walk. It could be a run. Just plugging in movement that feels achievable at this time of year is so important. And so what if you're doing a 20-minute body weight circuit instead of a 1-hour gym circuit? 20 minutes of body weight at home is better than nothing. And if shooting for that 1 hour in the gym 5 times a week means you end up doing nothing, we are going for those 20 minutes at home every single day of the week over trying to achieve something that we know is not achievable at this time of year. It doesn't mean you've fallen off the wagon. It means you're readjusting in line with what life is throwing at you right now. And it means you're not going, ugh, I can't do any of this, so I'm just going to suck it all in and we'll start in the new year. You will feel rubbish for doing that. I can guarantee you will not feel good for throwing in the towel just because it's December and life's got busier and picking it up again in January. You will not feel good about yourself in hindsight. So just make them easy wins. could even just be 5 minutes of sprinting up the stairs for 20 seconds, resting for 40 seconds, and doing it 5 times. Some kind of movement is better than no movement. But the most important thing here is just don't set yourself up for failure, as with everything. But those goalposts may have moved a little bit. Failure might be slightly faster to hit in December than the other 11 months of the year. So just move those goalposts a little bit and give yourself that chance for success. I hope that helps a bit. But that's what I do. When I go home around Christmas, I'm not going to the gym every day. It's closed. So I'll go for a run. I'll go for a walk. I'll do some at-home bodyweight stuff. I get my fix. I know it's only for about a week of the year. And then I'm back into my routine the next week. Okay. I always say I'll use December as a maintenance month, but I never manage it. How do you actually create a lifestyle that holds up even during the busiest month of the year? So, we've touched a bit on how to maintain in that previous question, shock. But in terms of setting yourself up throughout the rest of the year, prior to going into December, it's habits. It's stacking those habits so that when you come into December, you're kind of in autopilot mode and it doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like it takes too much time out of the day. It doesn't take too much energy or too much thought. So things I do every single week without fail. I will be in bed 9 hours before I'm due to wake up. So I'm getting at least 8 hours of sleep. That happens every single day. Unless, God forbid, I have some social event where I get less than 8 hours, in which case I'm fuming. No, I'm joking. It's very rare, but it happens. So the sleep is number one. So when we come into December, I'm not going into it in a fatigued state. So even if I have some nights where I have less than 8 hours, my body's pretty okay because I've set that up pretty well going into it. I have breakfast within 90 minutes of waking. So I'm going to continue to do that in December. I train 5 to 6 days a week. Might be hard to do that in December, but I'm still going to hit at least 3 or 4. And then where I can't get the sessions in that I want to, I'm going to supplement with some other kind of movement. I hit my protein every day. I hit my carbs every day. I hit my fats every day. Okay, so coming into December, we may not be able to control all of the meals that we're eating in the same way as we would the rest of the year. But I am going to make sure when I'm at these events, the first thing that goes onto my plate is protein and veg. Then I'm going to get some healthy fats. Then I'm going to get some good carbs. So I'm making sure I'm putting the priorities on my plate, and then I start building it up from there. So everything you've already know and everything you've accumulated throughout the rest of the year comes into December, so that I think when it comes to December, things are just out of our control, and that's what we struggle with. But there are still ways to control certain things, like how you build that plate, like what time you leave an event, like the alcohol and the drink choices that you make. You can control all of this. Saying no, sure, it is hard every now and then, but you can still do it. And I think it's just sometimes having someone else tell you, go and say no, put that drink down. You didn't want to drink tonight. Where is the protein on your plate? Having me in your ear or in your mind when you go to these events, or the next time someone texts you to go to something and you don't want to go to, have me in your head going, just say no. And if you need help composing that message, guys, you can DM me anytime. I've become a master at this, so just hit me up and I can help you. But that lifestyle outside of December is so important, and that is conducive to having a good December, even though things might differ a little bit to how they normally look, because you have stacked so many good systems, habits, you've been consistent throughout the rest of the year. It's not going to shake you too much in December. All right. What's one small daily practice I can do during December that will keep me grounded and on track, even if everything else feels chaotic? So we want some little micro habits in here, some anchors that keep us grounded. This could look different to everyone. I listed a few previously. Consistent bedtime. Try and keep that in there as much as you can. These are just a few. You don't need to do all of these. Pick one, build on it. Breakfast within 90 minutes. Still having 3 really good meals a day. Doing some kind of movement 5+ times a week, even if it's a walk. Little micro habits. Making sure that you're getting enough water in. each day. All of this, all the things that you already know, just pick one of them. I think with all this, it's so important to not go, I'm going to do everything, and then you do nothing. One of them. But the things that I really focus on December, if I do go to an event where I'm drinking, I'm having water whilst I'm there as well. I'm stopping drinking the 2 hours before I want to go to sleep, and I'm having water from there on out. That really helps me. I then don't feel too bad in the morning. I don't go to bed too dehydrated. My sleep isn't too impacted because I've stopped drinking a little bit before. And also, I haven't had too much because sometimes I'll sandwich a drink with water, a drink with water. That tends to really help in terms of habits when it comes to alcohol. When it comes to training, some kind of movement every single day, if you can, at the same time, you will be less likely, I think, to stick to your sessions in a week if you just go, I'm just going to train when time comes up today. You will not schedule in that time. It needs to be like a meeting in your diary, or you're dropping, like you would not skip dropping your kids off to school. Let's not skip that bit of movement. It doesn't need to be a workout, just some kind of movement. So we've covered sleep, we've covered alcohol, we've covered movement. And then with nutrition, we've spoken about getting that breakfast in. And I really do believe that when you nail that first meal of the day, you feel great about having made one good choice and about having nourished yourself and fueled yourself and set yourself up for the day, that the rest kind of all just tends to fall into place from there. But anchor those 3 good meals in. And then if you have things that you need to go to throughout the month, throughout the day, you're not doing too much damage. You've got that damage control in there already. One daily practice though, I might have missed that. Okay, what would my one daily practice be during December? I think it would be an outdoor walk. I do. I think it's really good for your nervous system. It helps you stay calm. It helps you stay grounded. I really like going without earphones. So just listen to your surroundings. It's not always the most peaceful in London, but you can find a park. You can walk by the river. Get outside. Yeah, sure. It's cold. It's crisp. It's stunning on some days. So go and get some kind of outdoor movement every single day. I would say from a nervous system perspective and also a movement perspective, that would help me feel really grounded, and hopefully it would help you feel grounded too. Okay, last one. How do I get through the holidays without feeling like I'm losing all my progress and actually trust myself to pick things back up in January without the guilt spiral? Okay, so this one is, I'm assuming that you kind of just park things in December, you accept it for what it is, and that it's just 1 month of your life. And that hopefully by the time January rolls around, you feel that you can trust yourself to pick things back up. That's what I'm getting from this question. So forget everything we've said about bringing in those micro habits and keeping things going in December. If you're someone who just hits pause, December is wild. There's not much you can do about it. You know, you're going to do what you can to get through. But when January comes back round, we're going to hit the ground running. I would say, don't worry about it. You're not going to lose all of your progress within the space of a month. Yes, being realistic with you, you will lose some progress. Of course you will. You go from training regularly to doing nothing in December, from eating well to just eating whatever in December. There's going to be a shift. But I think if you go into the month with acceptance that that's what's going to happen, and it's not suddenly just this new lifestyle you've created, it is just a moment in time. It is 1 month you've just got to get through the best you can. As long as you view it like that, I think you totally can trust yourself. You've trusted yourself to go into it, and I like that. And I don't think you would do that if you didn't trust yourself to come out the other side. When it comes to January, you may be really tempted to just go, I want to lose loads of weight. I want to train every day. I'm going to run every day, because you've done nothing in December. I think the important thing when you come into January is to not let yourself do that. Almost start as if you're starting again. Go right back to when you set yourself your previous goals. What did that look like? We didn't shoot for the stars. We actually started pretty manageable, reasonable. It was totally within our wheelhouse. We can do that. We can do, even if it starts as 2 sessions a week, 1 session a week, gradually build on it as the weeks go on. I also think if you've proven to yourself you can do it before, you've got, from that experience, you've got that trust that you can do it again. If it is your first year of hitting pause in December, before you go into December, write down what your goals are at the end of November. What are your goals that you want to achieve? Actually, we're in December by the time this comes out. Write down your goals now, or what you thought your goals were before you went into December, reflect on them when you come to January rather than the headspace you're going to be in December 31st, where you're going to feel a bit rubbish about yourself in the way that, like, in a different way to how you did at the end of November, because you might start feeling like, ugh, I haven't done any movement, I haven't eaten well. Try not to let yourself feel rubbish about yourself, because you made the choice and you knew that choice was what you needed to enjoy December and get through it, have less stress on you, prevent burnout. You made that choice with yourself at the forefront of your mind, knowing that's what you needed throughout that month. So it's not necessarily a bad thing at all. So yeah, you might feel rubbish because you've not moved, but you didn't make the wrong or the bad decision. So when you come into January, give yourself a bit of grace, reflect back on the goals that you set yourself at the end of November, and look at them when you come to Jan. And if there are some other things you want to add in, go for it. But again, when it comes to goal setting, don't give yourself too many. Just give yourself honestly one or two. Make sure they actually mean something to you. I think in the space of a month, bodies are so malleable. I say this all the time. If you do want to make some kind of aesthetic change in January, you're doing the right way, it won't take too long. So do not freak, do not stress, trust in yourself. You're going into December with the best intentions. It's not to lose all your progress. That's not why you're doing it. You're pausing for a reason, and it's probably because you need to put that energy into other areas that require it from you during this month. And that is totally fine. Hopefully, you can now go into this holiday season feeling a little bit more confident with your approach. And remember, it doesn't need to be a perfect month. You just need to do what needs to get done to feel as good as possible throughout it. Be honest with yourself, set those boundaries, say no. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And you will have the best holiday season you have had to date.